Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Another weekend of Super Rugby has passed us by, so we're back again to have a look back at round number 7 with 7 games played out. Let's see how we did in our picks. Let's see how the teams went. It was an amazing weekend, another amazing weekend. This competition just waits until you think you know who the front runners are. You think you know who should win every match, who the teams are that'll top the tables, and then it gives you a weekend like we just witnessed in round 7, where everything gets tipped upside down, slammed on its head, and you're back to square one, not knowing what the hell is going on. So, our 7 matches we got here this weekend will not be including the 4 teams having a bye, of course. The Brumbies, the Cheetahs, the Rebels, and the Waratahs. And we kick things off in Waikato Stadium, where the Chiefs are at home, and they're up against the last placed in the New Zealand Conference Blues team. Now, this should have been the way the Chiefs are playing, an absolute thrashing. I thought as much. I predicted that is exactly what would happen, but the first half especially was anything but that. It was an extremely tight first half. The Chiefs were absolutely hammered when it comes to penalty count in the first 40 minutes. The Blues had plenty of chances as well, and it looked like a pretty close game between the two as well. For the Blues, I think one man stood out for them, especially as the match wore on. Milani Nanai was a constant threat throughout the match, and I thought on the opposite, Rennie Ranger probably needed to be a bit more of a team player for the Blues. They had chances, but Ranger just couldn't seem to play that overlap, play that chance to an outside player, and it did kill a lot of the Blues' attacking momentum. They did play a fantastic match, however, the Blues defensively, Rennie Ranger was outstanding. The second half, well, it exploded into action after a tight and niggly first half, where the two teams kind of were hesitant to chance around. The second half was anything but. It was an explosive second half. The points started flowing, and the game really got an exciting and tense finish as well. An interesting tactic almost from the Chiefs with having Tuera Kobalo playing as a flanker. I thought this really showed the extent of the Chiefs' injury toll as well, when the only man you have available to play on the field is a scrum half or halfback. You throw him into the back row. The Chiefs were doing everything they could to try and keep a healthy 15 players on the field. Now, the Chiefs we've seen in recent weeks often have had an easy job at closing out a match. You know, they've been ahead by 20 or so points, and they just close the game out without too much concern whatsoever. This was a different Chiefs. I thought they had to really learn how to close out a match, although a lot of them should know how to do it already. But as a team, as a unit, it was an open match, especially in the second half, and they had to close it out and stop the Blues from stealing this match, and which, to the satisfaction of their home fans, they did as well, with a tidy 6-point win, 29-23, the Chiefs over the Blues. My pick was far from correct. I picked the Chiefs to win it 46-24, but I still pick up 1 point for getting the result correct, the winner, I should say, of that result correct. Following that tight and close matchup that probably a lot of people didn't really expect, especially from the Blues side of things, we made our way over to Australia, NIB Stadium in Perth, for match number 2. Now, this is one also, like the first, many would have expected the Crusaders to run away with against the Western Force. But as we talked about in the preview, the Crusaders were coming back from a very, very long trip of South Africa. They were stopping by Perth on their way back to Christchurch, and many questions were asked whether this would be one stop too many for the Cantabrians. But we've seen much of what was bad about the Crusaders franchise in the opening periods of this match. They were their own worst enemy throughout the 80 minutes, and they allowed their opponents to feed off the mistakes that they made. As we've seen, you know, against the Sharks earlier a few weeks ago, that's the only points they scored was off Crusaders' mistakes. This was very much the same kind of thing, and the Force, well, they were showing how clever they were at taking their opportunities and playing a smart game of rugby. questions again. The long road trip as the Crusaders started to really look like they'd taken their toll as they got later into the matchup. It was close and the Force was showing the ability that could show them up to being a decent mid-table team and definitely on the improve for the rest of the season. But like we've seen in recent weeks from the Crusaders, they seem to just have that killer play in the last 6 minutes or so that puts them in front by just enough. And we know Crusaders rugby is a team, is a union that really know how to shut the gate, how to close the door on their opponents, and 1 point or 100 points, the lead doesn't matter. The Crusaders, if they want, can shut you out and keep you from scoring another point. Stolen, like we've seen, pretty much for the whole road trip that the Crusaders have been on. They've pipped every team right at the post, and they do it once again against the Western Force, who were just 1 point adrift. 20 points to 19, the final score. Crusaders taking a very tight win over the Force. 28-15, that was my prediction, so I still grab 1 point from that matchup, only just by picking the winning side. But the Force showing, do not underestimate this team, because they can really get going if you give them the chance, if you give them the mistakes to benefit from. Our third match of the weekend, and we're off to Newlands in Cape Town, where the home team, the Stormers, are up against the newest side, one of the newest sides, the Sunwolves, travelling away to Cape Town to face the Stormers this one. And it was one of those matches that you hope the Sunwolves might be able to do something special, but deep down in your heart, you know that the Stormers will probably be too good. And the Sunwolves probably didn't do themselves any favours by resting a number of first-team players, and it showed really right from the outset. The Stormers flew out to a very early 4-try lead inside 22 minutes, and like the Jaguars over recent weeks as well, pretty much whole season even, the Sunwolves always seem to be chasing the game after bad starts. But we've seen this from the Sunwolves week after week as well, that they have the ability and they have the fight to keep on getting into the match. They will not give up, and we've seen it once again against the Stormers. They did fight back. I thought their South African fullback Viljoen was very good as well. He has impressed all season long for the Sunwolves. The Stormers, Notchi and du Plessis, I thought were outstanding for the South African side, and they look to be players who are really taking this team by the scruff of the neck, especially du Plessis. I think his kicking effort really is holding this team in quite high stead throughout the Super Rugby season. Now the final score in this one, the Stormers winning 46 points to 19. Now get this, my prediction was 43-17, so I was only up by a couple of points each way, and I picked myself up the bonus point for getting winner and margin within 10. 2 points for me from the Stormers versus the Sunwolves. I was quite chuffed with that, because that was a pretty good pick, I thought, on my part, so a couple of points for me there from South Africa. Now we make our way back to Saturday night, and it's in New Zealand, Wellington Westpac Stadium, where the Hurricanes return from the bye, and they are up against the Jaguars, or the Jaguares, whatever we call them. And this match was interesting because really the Jaguars needed a win. That's what they need. Like the Sunwolves, they need a win. Both those sides under immense pressure to get the result. Now, I thought the Jaguars come into this match with a real game plan, and it showed right from the outset when they were putting massive pressure around the ruck of the Hurricanes' ball, which was putting the halfback under immense pressure and really killing their game plan, because he wasn't getting clean ball away to his back line, which was really affecting the go-forward ball of the Hurricanes and really the flow of their game plan completely. The Jaguars were on top in that sense, but they weren't really taking their chances, like we've said for I don't know, the last month, 6 weeks already of the competition, really since the start, the Jaguars just have not put their chances away when it matters. The game really come unstuck for the Jaguars later on at the end of the first half and the start of the second half, where tries went to the Hurricanes and scoring on either side of halfway. We know, as rugby fans that we really all are, that is critical to winning games, and really a kick in the guts to the other team that concedes in their game plan and how they get back in the game, especially either side of halfway. Yeah, after half time, you're in a game plan, set ideas, and you can see the try. It really just throws that completely out the window, and the Hurricanes did that to the Jaguars. Now, Dane Coles, it was great to see him back into some amazing form. Speaking of good form, Savia, that is the Julian Savia kind, back in some good form, picking up a hat-trick of tries throughout the match. But the Jaguars, like the Sunwolves, always seem to be chasing the game right from the get-go, and they never really recovered. And the Canes, they brought on their bench, as we know, like the Chiefs as well, a team that brings on so much more impact off the bench, and they ended up blowing the Jaguars right out of the water. Now for the Jaguars, I thought two men were pretty instrumental in what good things they did in this match. Nicolas Sanchez, he is just one of the best goal kickers around. I think he's a pretty good director of play as well when he is on song, and he can direct his backline a bit better. Another man, Pablo Matera, I said on Twitter, and a lot of you guys agreed as well, at Super Rugby level, this man is an absolute beast. He is an absolute monster, and Matera just is going to go from strength to strength playing at this level, and internationally it's going to do great things for his career as well. He is an absolute class act for the Jaguars. Now the final score in this one, disappointingly as it was, 40 points to 22. The Hurricanes with the win over the Argentinian franchise. My prediction was 32-26, so a bit off on the scoreboard there, but still I grab myself a point for getting the winner correct. Much as I would have liked it to be the other way, the Hurricanes got the job done. Off to Australia we go once again, Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, for one of the greatest games of Super Rugby I can say I have ever seen in recent times. I mean, we've seen some fantastic games recently, but this Reds Highlanders match was just something else, absolutely something else. Now the Blues getting close to the Chiefs I thought was a bit of a near upset, but this one took the cake. The Highlanders we've seen in recent weeks have been very slow to get off the mark, and that really was what summed up this match. A horribly slow start for the Highlanders, missing their co-captain Ben Smith at the back as well. Was he the glue that sticks his Highlanders team together? Maybe that's what we've learned from this weekend. The Reds, though, to their credit, an amazing fast start. I thought Liam Gill is an absolute menace. He is a tyrant. He is absolutely magical playing at number 7. His ball running skills are phenomenal. I think he's really come along well this season. Not to mention what he's always been good at, messing around at the ruck, and that he is just a fantastic player. And I mean, you know, look at what Pocock's done this year compared to what Liam Gill's done in the last couple of weeks. Comparisons, I think Gill's got that one sewed up. The Highlanders made a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors in the first half, but the Reds took those and made them into points, and they let at half time hold on to everything you know, and hold dear if you're a Highlanders fan, because they were trailing 22-6 at half time, which was a long way back. It is a long way back, but if anyone can come back from that, we know it is the Highlanders, and they started their way back early in the second half. They did eventually get 2 tries disallowed in the second half. That, well, where do you go? How far do you go back on TMO calls? What do you look at? What don't you look at? What's a neck roll? What's not a neck roll? I mean, consistency, especially on the neck roll thing I've written down here. There's probably about 6 or 7 neck rolls throughout this match, yet only 1 or 2 of them got pulled up. I mean, the Highlanders really were putting the pressure on the Reds, who seemed to have gone into their shell in the second half. They were struggling to try and get the ball off the Highlanders. The mistakes were gone from the match by the Highlanders, and they were really pressuring on. I think those 2 disallowed tries changed the match. If the Highlanders had got 1 or even both of those, it would have been nowhere near as close and nowhere near as an exciting finish as it was. The Reds, though, they made no mistake in just doing what they needed to do. Scoring points, whether it be drop goals, penalties, every single chance they could get, they took every single point. Now, an amazing stat from this match is that it took 58 minutes for the Highlanders to score their first try. 58 minutes is almost an hour to score one try. That'll almost be unheard of in Highlanders history, or recent history anyway, since they've been one of the front-running sides. The Highlanders, though, something they did get away with a lot throughout that match was offsides. They were offside quite a lot, especially when they were trying to make the big comeback. They did get within 1 point, however, right at the end. The comeback was on. Tries were scored in a flurry in the last 10-15 minutes by the Highlanders, but an exciting finish, an amazing finish to that match. It looked like they'd get there, but the Reds, to their credit, held out amazingly, playing a great first half and then just completely going into their shell in the second, only scoring 2 penalties to tick them over to 28 points. The Highlanders only 27. The Reds, an amazing match, an amazing win as well for the Reds. Myself, I pick up 0 points for that result, which isn't the best, but boy oh boy, that was one exciting, exhilarating matchup between the Highlanders and the Reds. 28-27, the final score to the Reds. We venture on over to Kings Park in Durban for our 6th and second to last matchup for round number 7, and it was the Sharks versus the Lions. Now, well, my prediction here was for the Sharks to pull this one out, but I've often recently been quite cautious about the Sharks, a team that has a very good record, but just can't seem to find their spot when it comes to attacking. Now, they have some phenomenal players who know how to attack, yet they just don't seem to be able to put it away. This match, however, was full of mistakes, it was full of errors, and it did draw huge criticism from the media about being one of the worst Super Rugby matches, a bad advertisement for the game, and things like that, which you may call to be a bit harsh. I've seen some pretty bad Super Rugby matches in my time, but the standard is as high as ever this year, and there could be a claim to those statements coming in from the media. I thought the referee, Angus Gardner, was a bit too whistle happy from the referee. The Australian blew everything up. It killed the flow. It killed the momentum of the game. But as we predicted in the preview, the Sharks, they show no sign of attack whatsoever. The Lions, we know they love to attack. They've got X-Factor players, and later on in the first half, they started to show their way through. And what even surprised me is the Lions probably got the better of the forward battle against the Sharks as well. And there's a lot of players in this Lions team who should be in green jumpers for the Springboks later on this year. I mean, if there's not, surely there's some issues going on in South African rugby. These guys are front runners, and they showed in this match as well, coming out on top. The Lions with the win over the Sharks, 24-9, just 3 penalties to the Sharks. My prediction was 29-22 to the Sharks, so I was miles away from my prediction coming close. 0 points for me, a dreadful end to that match from my picks. 1 game to go, and we're staying in South Africa, Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in Port Elizabeth, where the Kings were at home up against the Bulls. And well, I didn't have much to say about this game in the preview, and it's probably about the same in the review as well. As predicted in the preview, the Bulls were too good. The Kings didn't get off to the fiery start that they needed to if they're going to challenge the Bulls. There was 3 tries in 30 minutes from the Bulls. They're always in control of this match right from the outset. The Kings had chances, and they had really a massive chance when the Bulls were down to 13 men, but they could not capitalise on even a golden chance like that. They just lacked the finishing against top sides, and we've seen the Bulls really have a very good defensive unit as well. They look like a real South African threat, along with the Lions, 2 sides that could really lead the South African charge from their conference. Now, they could be 2 teams we'll be seeing later on in the season as well. The Bulls very good defensively, and they're starting to show just how good their attack can be as well. Their record, 4 wins, a draw and a loss now. Really good are the Bulls after that massive win. It was only the Kings, and it's easy to say good things about a team when they thump the Kings, but the record speaks for itself, and they're starting to look like they could be front runners for this competition. We'll see when they play some other opponents in the coming weeks just how good this Bulls team can be. So the final score was 38-6 to the Kings with that result. Picking the winner correctly, I grabbed 1 point. My pick was 43-27, miles away once again. Alright, so that wraps up for today. We've had all 7 matches to go through. There's an upset in there, there's a couple of sad stories, almost upsets, big performances from lower place sides. We had it all. We had a really good round 7 of Super Rugby. Now, my picks for the weekend saw me pick up 6 points overall. 5 for picking the winners and just the 1 bonus point. That puts my tally up to 37 for the winners and 11 bonus points from the 7 rounds so far, giving me a total of 48 points from my picks so far. Now we had a few picks coming in from you guys as well, but one man, Neil Kutsia, easily topped them all, picking up 7 points. That's right, 7 points from the weekend's action. The best of his picks, though, come from the Stormers Sunwolves game, where he's picked up the Stormers 48-20 in his pick. The actual score 46-19. That's about as close as you can get without taking the whole packet of marbles. That's a bonus point for him. He also picked every match right except for the Reds Highlanders match, which really, to be honest, who picked that? I don't know. No one probably. The TAB will be rubbing their hands together. All the betting agencies out there will be cashing in on the Reds Highlanders and all the multis that go with Super Rugby as well. So, Neil, congratulations. You picked up 7 points. You have bested me once again, as you did a couple of weeks ago as well. Very good picks. I hope you're actually putting your money where your mouth is on those and picking up some sweet coin as well. Right, that wraps us up for this week's review of round 7 of Super Rugby. Hope you've all enjoyed, hope you've all found some insight in these matches over the past weekend. I hope to see you all coming back in a couple of days' time, where we will have a look at round 8. The matches involved, make our pick selections. You guys can leave me your picks as well. As always, try to have that up Wednesday night, Thursday morning. As always, give you at least a couple of days to have a look, have a check out, and make your call on who's going to win. So thanks for tuning in and watching. Hope you're enjoying these videos, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Until then, thanks for watching, and take care.